My blissful gorgeous selves, the fourth day of Mahabharat War was fearful, thrilling. Bhimsen killed dozens of brothers of Duryodhan. His son Ghatotkacha presented such a horrifying encounter meant with even Kaurava general. Bhishma's heart became shaken up, and therefore he announced the end of fighting for that day before sunset. Feeling down and disappointed, Duryodhan went to Bhishma. He went to Bhishma in night and asked, I believed all along that yourself, my teacher Drona, Kripacharya and Ashwatthama can conquer the whole world for me. But what is the reason that every day we are facing defeat? What is special in the Pandavas? Hearing this, Bhishma became seated up, all alert, and said, the power of righteousness is like a steel rock made up in thunderbolts. It is invincible. Krishna is the very embodiment of that righteousness, and you are unrighteous. All those too that follow you are equally unrighteous. How can a thorn pierce a mighty rock? Definitely, I have enough power to kill all the Pandavas myself, but what again? But that again is the only impossibility. The Pandavas have lived for a very long time upon their dharma. Now, Atma's immortality and invincibility is at their disposal. I also live by the dharma and fight by the dharma. I do as much as I do only by that Almighty Krishna is allowing me to do so. Otherwise, we would have been long since already dead. Don't you remember Barbarik, the grandson of Bhimsen, who almost killed out entire army in minutes? In this context, Bhishma described in detail the incarnations of Lord Narayan and Sri Krishna role in unburdening the earth. He explained Krishna's pleasure means conquest of all the earth and planets. Worshipping, remembering, meditating on Him is freedom from all fears and attainment of eternal life and eternal happiness. Then he told him, O Duryodhan, still there is a time. There is time. Tomorrow announce peace and friendship. I am sure you can save all the world and enjoy your kingdom and a full life. Duryodhana did not like this. Quietly he stood and walked to his tent and lay down on his bed, tossing and turning for a long time. On the fifth and sixth and seventh days again the Pandavas became victorious in the war. Although Prince Iravan, the mighty son of Arjun, was killed, still 8 brothers of King Duryodhan, along with all brothers of Shakuni, died. Ghatotkacha was almost very near killing Duryodhan himself, but somehow he escaped. On the 8th day, again Bhimsen killed a few dozen of brothers of King Duryodhan. Doing so, he was very happy and pleased. Although Bhishma used to kill 10,000 soldiers of the Pandavas' army every day as he had promised, still Bhimsen, Arjun, Ghatotkacha and others were destroying more than 50,000 of Kauravas every day. Again the announcement came early to halt the fighting for the day. Duryodhana was aggrieved and furious on the big death raids which included his own brothers. He called for a meeting and consulted Karna. Afterwards, he went to Bhishma in his tent and requested, if you still believe that the Pandavas are unkillable and invincible, or that you won't use your power to kill them when you know you can, just out of your love for them and hatred for me, then please empty the post of commander-in-chief so that I can install Karna, who has long vowed to do or die for me, but only because of you he has withdrawn from fight. I am sure with him you can win. And Duryodhana folded his hands, shedding tears, cried with pain and distress. But to Bhishma, the majestic warrior, his words pierced like arrows. They were too insulting to his dignity. He kept silent for a while, breathing long and deep. Then he looked at him and said, Okay, stupid Duryodhana. Tomorrow's battle will be the immortal in the history of war and might. Look at these 5 arrows. He took those shining ones in his hands. I shall kill the Pandavas with all important warriors as long as Krishna doesn't intervene. Okay, king, now you must leave. Get out of here. Duryodhana returned very enthusiastic. He proclaimed everywhere that Bhishma has vowed to kill the Pandavas tomorrow, for which purpose 5 special arrows have been set aside. He did not intentionally tell the other half of the vow. His army was full of enthusiasm, and in the parties and entertainment places and shopping centers, people were talking of it all over in Kurukshetra. Great festivities spread and many victory party began to celebrate. If Pandavas die, then that certainly is the end of war. After Duryodhana left Bhishma's residence, Bhishma sat in meditation and remembering Sri Krishna, he prayed, O merciful one, forgive me for hostility of this servant of yours. O my most generous beloved Lord, I know you will successfully save your dear devotees Pandavas, but please do pardon me too. Tears rolled on his cheeks and he felt the touch of the Lord in depth in his heart. The news of the Kauravas' great enthusiasm reached the Pandavas through their scouting KGBs. Hearing that, all hearts of the Pandavas sank in utter gloom and regret. With overwhelming despondence, not for their oncoming death, but because of the nature of the vow of their own beloved Bhishma, and the fact that situations had come to such that all boarded one chariot and arrived at Krishna's residence. He soon came out in the living room. Hearing everything, he hung his face morose and said, if Bhishma has vowed, then there is no way. Then he told them, for a warrior fighting for a just cause and dying on the battlefield is equally as glorious as an entire world conquest. Therefore, You all, in my opinion, should be ready for the festival of life's great sacrifice. Of course, I shall be there with you as I have ever been, but who knows, it is better to prepare. So go and do all the charity and donations and feeding of the holy ones and sacred worship and prayers and whatever you deem worth doing before death. No argument, no logic. No logic came from the Pandavas. Pin drop silence. Krishna is the way, Krishna is the light, Krishna is the mission. They assembled all their enthusiasm and immediately sent hundreds of servants all around to invite and bring with them thousands of Brahmins and holy men and saints and the Swamis and Avadhutas and Paramahansas. A huge hall was vacated, cleaned and decorated within an hour. Hundreds of kinds of food and drink and gold and auspicious articles were made ready. Holy men were duly worshipped, fed delicious items and offered great charities. All people of the Pandavas' armies were engaged in doing that. Nobody was sleeping. Everyone engaged in pre-death rituals everywhere for miles and miles lit up and groups of wise men roamed around. But what is this? Arjun intervened in the middle. After eating and receiving charities, when the holy men were finished, they gave their usual blessings. O glorious one, O long-lived one, most dear Pandavas, be victorious. What? Nakul and Sahadev and others glanced, amazed and questioned, why this blessing? By the false blessing only fruits of your meritorious deeds, your tapasya, and your noble deeds will be burnt up, and you will be left with nothing. All the holy men announced, Bhishma is a perfect celibate. That's okay. He is wonderful. He is fine. But through the tongue of we holy men, we are holy men, we are saints and Swami. So, if we speak in such occasions, it is only God Himself who speaks out and not we mortals. If Bhishma's vows is unwithdrawn, our blessing too will stay unwithdrawn. It will stay and stand like mighty Himalayas. Now, it is not a matter of Bhishma and you fighting. It is now a matter of our blessing and Bhishma's spiritual strength competing. It is a matter of which one is dear to Bhagavan. Bhishma's tremendous willpower, born of his being a Bala Brahmachari, are our blessing to you out of our dharmic life and love for God. Message was sent to the royal families in Upaplavya city camps. There they be ready with priests and large crematorium arrangements by tomorrow evening. As soon as Queen Draupadi heard, she was shocked and grieved to the core of her heart. She immediately ordered to ready the chariot and ran down to Subhadra. She was meditating. Let's go to battlefield. After conveying the news, she requested her, Krishna, my brother, is there. Not the slightest unwanted thing can sneak off from his sight. If anyone comes, which he knows well, then that's no trouble to that. warrior sister. Okay, that can only be a boon. That can only be greeted with all the pleasure my life can uphold. He is there, and that's enough. I stay, I meditate. Draupadi's eyes became full of tears. She rushed and embraced Subhadra. You are very powerful, Subhadra. I can see that. You are convinced, but I am not. I will go and I am going to fight with your brother. And I tell you, I will win or I die. Both looked into each other's faces in deep silence of the midnight. Both, if Bhishma wins, both are going to be widowed by tomorrow evening. Draupadi rode on her chariot, which flew like the wind. The horses never tired, and she needed no driver. She alone was going, with one trusted maidservant. After an hour or so, the chariot stopped by the door of Krishna's palatial tent. It was 1:30 by now in the night. All feastings of the holy men and charity and donations and worshipping and receiving their blessings were completed, and the warriors were resting for the big day ahead. She alighted and walked and entered the living room and saw Krishna, who was just preparing to retire to his bedroom. He greeted her. Both sat on two chairs facing each other and talked for a long time. Many times Draupadi cried, but Krishna was not to be in the mood of giving any good hope. Grandpa has vowed. What else can I do? What else can I or anyone else do? That was the patent reply of Krishna. Then Draupadi's face reddened, and she said, "Then do me a little favor." Draupadi was really angry. Krishna looked at her. It's better to die as Saubhagyavati than a widow. Could you please then set me a fire and kindle fire by your own hand tonight? Okay, great queen, your decision is as majestic and heroic as it ought to be, quite suitable to you. It is just adorable and respected as you are. I shall definitely help you if you take permission from your husband. Krishna said to her in the same coldness, I don't need anybody's permission. I am not going. Wise men say you are the Virat. You are here. If you consent, then it is useless, quite unnecessary to seek anyone else's permission, Draupadi said persistently. Okay, then a sati, Krishna said, a sati must adorn herself with 16 decorations before she enters the fire. So you fix yourself, by then I am getting a royal fire ready for you, Krishna said. Draupadi ran down to her chariot, carried her box and entered straight into Krishna's bathroom. Half an hour, when she came out, she looked as beautiful as on her wedding day. Outside the tent, at about 100 yards away, an artistic fire had been made, and Krishna with a few attendants were waiting for her. She looked at Krishna. They looked at each other. Servants were standing, folded hands in reverence. Then she walked on up to the fire as soon as she lifted her foot to climb to the top of the heap of